Joey Mesa here. So this is the bike I was working on at the shop the other day. It's got Shimano 105. It's the 5700 group. So the complaint was that it was hard to shift as far as hard effort into the shifter, and then lots of hesitation going down, ghost shifting, whatnot. So the cable was pretty old, but in addition to that, this rear housing loop is way too short. It's got a super tight bend in the radius there, which makes it difficult for that inner wire to slide through there. The cable is internally routed through the frame, so we'll go through the process of an easy way basically to replace these cables as well. Typically I'd like to replace the housing with the inner wire. Sometimes if you're just chewing through inner wires every 6 months, you could probably go 2 inner wires to the housing, but this bike, it needed new tape anyways as well, so we went ahead and just did new cable and housing. And obviously we're going to have to do the housing anyway because it was too short. First step though is to put it in the smallest cog, let all that slack out of the shifter before you even start, and just leave it there through the process. So we got our cable disconnected there. I usually like to cut off the part that's has gotten crimped in the derailleur so it slides through the rest of the system pretty easily. So we're taking out, there's usually a little screw there, and you can remove this particular bike. It's a Raleigh. We just remove the little bits there. I set those aside in a little bowl so we don't lose them. And I've got a bunch of just these little Teflon tubes, and find one that's long enough and just slip it over that inner wire. And you can't, on this the rear end of the bike here, it's difficult. You kind of got to just, if you can get hold of the wire here under the bottom bracket, you can kind of just push, pull, and work it into place. Notice I've rotated the bike back, so I've got an easy visual, easy to work on. I'm not having to stoop underneath the bike. So usually when we're doing an internal routed cable like this, we're flipping that bike up where you can get a good look at it. So you can see that I've got the little Teflon piece wedged into the cable guide there. And so we've got the inner wire just dangling out there from underneath the bottom bracket. And we're going to do the same with the front. There's a same little cable stop there that mounts to the frame. Got another little tube, and we're just going to slide it up. There's a hole there in the bottom of the bottom bracket. That's on this particular bike, it was kind of a tight fit, so work that through there. Once we got it going, it just slid through pretty easy. But yeah, just slide that stuff through, and then you can kind of, once it starts going, you can just pull on the inner wire there at where it exits or goes in initially at the frame down there at the bottom of the screen. And I'm just pulling the inner wire as I'm pushing the little Teflon tube. So then that's what you want to shoot for, just a few inches sticking out of each end. It gives you a nice little guide all the way through the front and back of the bike there to get the inner wire back through. So we're just stripping this old tape off here real quick. Lots of electrical tape, so I had to cut it with the knife. And then just whenever I replace the cables we typically use are just your standard Shimano SP41 Teflon lined cable housing. You've got 2 choices here. You can go either on the inside right next to the brake cable, or on the outside that's going to route the shift cable around and outside and behind the handlebars there. So I chose to just go back to how the original routing was there. So you can see we've got the housing off, and I'm just pushing straight down on the inner wire. So you can see where it goes through the top of the shifter body and then comes out through the bottom. There's like a little hole there. As you push the hood back, you can see that little hole. That's where you'll push the old cable out or feed your new cable in. So we go ahead and got that all pulled out. And if your cable housings are the correct length, then you can just match them up to the old ones and cut them from there. I didn't really like the length on the front 2 cables or the rear one that connects to the rear derailleur, this one here. So I just went ahead and recut both of those to a more appropriate length. So like I say, I use just the SP41 Shimano housing. And then just for the inner wires, I just like the plain old regular stainless steel Shimano non-coated cables. I think if you lube them up with, either a Teflon based grease or oil, or I like to use that just slick oleum or slick honey. That works pretty well. Make sure as you're pulling that through, you wipe it off real well. There's no, if it makes contact with the floor, sometimes it can pick up all kinds of dust and debris. Once you got it routed through, test it. Just give it a quick test and with the big lever and make sure it's pulling out of your hand. Sometimes you can route that through and you miss the little hole and it still goes out through the exit hole and hook everything up. Come to find out you never had it engaged correctly, and that's kind of a hassle to have to redo that. So I'm just opening up the little Teflon liner there with a pick. And this particular little ferrules there, the end caps, these are just some aluminum ones, so they were actually on the bike before, so I just reused them. You can normally reuse these several times. They're not really like the little plastic ones that kind of get distorted and bent up and whatnot. So we're going to route it right through that inside hole where it was initially. And then, basically from here, you don't want to be forgetting your little cable stop. Some bikes will use like a little Teflon tube through there. Or, you get finished and it feels like there's still like a lot of stiction. Sometimes using the Shimano little ferrules, they're plastic, but they have a little Teflon tail that's an inch or so long, and those kind of help. If you have a cable stop that kind of shifts around a little bit there, that will smooth it out a little. So pretty much from here, I'm just threading it through. It's all reverse process. I didn't have time to shoot all the footage of cinching it down, but this is basically what it's going to look like. This is a different derailleur, but it's the same model and everything. So basically you'll just tighten your, start off with that adjusting barrel all the way in. Just cinch your cable down with the pinch bolt and then just test shift it, and then you may have to adjust that adjusting barrel to where the pulleys are directly below the cassette, and once you do that, you're all good to go. Shouldn't have to adjust any of the high-low limits, any of that stuff. That should, theoretically should already be set. If not, then you're going to just need to do a complete derailleur adjustment, which is another process altogether. But should just have to do a little bit of minor cable tension adjustments, and you should be all good to go. And at this point, I've got the rest of the bike tuned up off camera, and we're just wrapping the bars, and shifted quite a bit better, a lot lighter action, and much higher accuracy there with those new cables. So anyway, that's gonna do it for this particular video. Hopefully it was informative. If you're not already a subscriber to my channel, you might consider subscribing. I've got tons of other bicycle tutorial videos and everything else. So that's gonna do it for this time, and thanks for watching.